66 million years ago, life on Earth faced its worst day. A 10-kilometer asteroid slammed into what is now the Yucatan Peninsula, releasing energy equal to 70 to 100 teratons of TNT, roughly a billion Hiroshima bombs. The impact ignited global wildfires, sent tsunamis racing across oceans, and filled the atmosphere with dust and sulfur that blocked out the sun for years. Photosynthesis collapsed, food chains crumbled, and within a geological blink, almost every large animal on land was gone, including all of the non-avian dinosaurs. But extinction isn't just destruction, it's also opportunity. When the skies cleared, Earth was a blank slate. Tiny mammals began to scurry through the sprouting forests, and a few bird lineages that survived, small ground-dwelling species able to eat seeds and insects, became the ancestors of every bird alive today. And from those survivors, one branch would rise to claim the throne left behind by their saurian ancestors. Fast, flightless, and absolutely terrifying. These were the terror birds, the dinosaurs that survived the end. After the asteroid, the world was a vastly different place to when the dinosaurs roamed. Global temperatures had plummeted, oceans had acidified, and forests were reduced to fields of ash. But as the world healed, a few lineages endured. Among the survivors were small ground-dwelling birds, the distant ancestors to modern ceremus and parrots. They were generalists, seed eaters, insect eaters, survivors that could live off whatever this devastated world could still offer. And, because they were small and adaptable, they endured where larger species starved. In the southern hemisphere, that adaptability paid off. South America at the time was a vast island continent, cut off from North America and Africa by ocean barriers. With no large mammalian predators to challenge them, birds had an open evolutionary field. They filled niches once held by dinosaurs, herbivores, scavengers, and soon, hunters. Over millions of years, some traded the promise of the sky for speed and strength on the ground. Their wings shrank, their legs lengthened, and their beaks became weapons again. From those survivors emerged an entirely new dynasty, the Phorusrhacidae, birds that would evolve into apex predators of the world. We know this from the fossils they left behind: long hollow leg bones for sprinting, heavy skulls built for impact, and proportions that trace neatly back to those smaller early birds that survived the extinction. It's evolution in motion, a second age of dinosaurs, just in its true feathered form. The first terror birds appeared roughly 60 million years ago in the Paleocene, only a few million years after the asteroid impact. We know this from fossils found in Argentina's Rio Chico Formation and Brazil's Itaboraí Basin, ancient river plains where the earliest Phorusrhacidae once roamed. Those early forms, like Coelopterus, were small, barely a metre tall, and probably omnivorous. They ran through dense forests, chasing lizards, insects, and small mammals, using their speed and agility more than brute strength. Think of them as opportunists, testing what worked in a world still rebuilding itself. By the Eocene, about 50 million years ago, South America's ecosystem had exploded in diversity. Forests gave way to open woodland and savannas. Herbivorous mammals were growing larger, the ancestors of sloths, armadillos, and strange hoof species called litopterns and notungulates. And wherever prey gets bigger, predators usually follow suit. Over the next 20 million years, the descendants of Coelopterus would evolve into powerful, long-legged hunters. From turkey-sized species to giants over 3 meters tall. Their legs lengthened for running, their wings shrank for stability, and their beaks became thick, hooked, and lethal. They weren't birds that appeared to be predators, they were predators that happened to be birds. And in the absence of cats, dogs, and bears, South America's top killers wore feathers. Everything about a terror bird was engineered for pursuit and precision. Their skeletons tell the story. The leg bones, long, hollow, and heavily muscled, show attachment scars where massive tendons once anchored similar to those of modern ostriches. From those proportions, paleontologists estimate top speeds from 50 to 60 km per hour, fast enough to outrun most prehistoric mammals at the time. 3 main toes gave them traction on soft ground, and their centre of gravity sat forward, keeping them perfectly balanced while running full tilt. Their wings were small and couldn't lift them, but they weren't entirely useless. In some species, the wing bones ended in little hook-like claws, probably used for balance or to pin struggling prey. It's the same principle we see today in ceremus, their small, living relatives, which use their wings to steady themselves during rapid turns or strikes. But the terror bird's defining weapon was its head, or, more to the point, its beak. It was massive, often half a metre long, and was a masterpiece of evolutionary design. It wasn't built to crush like a cat's jaw, it was built to strike. CT scans and stress modelling studies of Andalgalornis, one of the best preserved species, shows a skull reinforced for vertical strikes, but weak against twisting. The upper beak acted like a blade, the lower jaw like an anvil. When it struck, the neck muscles drove the head downward in a hammer motion, delivering a precise, bone-shattering impact. They didn't wrestle their prey, they executed it with swift strikes. One downward blow could break ribs, dislocate joints, or cause instant internal trauma. Think of it as a living weapon, part axe, part hammer, part guillotine. A design honed by 60 million years of evolution. The Phorusrhacid family wasn't one species, it was an entire dynasty of predators that ruled South America for almost 60 million years. Over that span they diversified into more than 20 known species, from nimble forest hunters to open plains giants. Celopterus was one of the earliest and smallest, barely a metre tall. Fossils from the Paleocene and Eocene show it lived in wooded environments, built for speed and agility rather than brute force. It probably hunted reptiles and small mammals, filling the role of a fox or caracara, quick, opportunistic and clever. By the late Miocene, around 9 million years ago, we find Andalgalornis, a metre and a half tall, known from remarkably complete skeletons in Argentina. It's one of the best studied terror birds because it gives us a clear look at their skull mechanics. CT scans reveal that its beak and skull were incredibly rigid, optimised for powerful downward strikes, but not sideward stress, proof of that distinctive hammering style of attack. Then there was Kelenkin guillemoi, discovered in Patagonia in 2006. At nearly 3 metres tall and weighing over 250 kilograms, it's the largest terror bird ever found, and one of the largest predatory birds in history. Its skull alone was 70 centimetres long, longer than a horse's, and its beak could deliver enough force to crush bone with a single blow. Kelenkin lived in open plains, where speed and size gave it dominance over South America's vast grazing mammals. And then finally, we have the last of the lineage, Titanus walleri, the only terror birds to venture beyond South America. Around 3 million years ago, when the Isthmus of Panama formed and 2 continents connected, Titanus migrated north, reaching what's now Florida and Texas. It stood around 2.5 metres tall and was likely the apex predator of its region, until new competition arrived from the north, the big cats, wolves and bears. From Celopterus to Kelenkin to Titanus, the Phorusrhacids adapted to every change their continent threw at them: forests, savannas, plains and predators. Together they represent one of the longest, most successful predatory dynasties on Earth. So, what exactly did the terror birds eat and how did they hunt? Their anatomy gives us some clues. The shape of their beaks, the rigidity of their skulls and the muscle attachments along their neck vertebrae all point to one thing: active predation. These weren't scavengers waiting for leftovers, they were pursuit hunters. The smaller species, like Celopterus as previously mentioned, probably hunted in dense forests, feeding on reptiles, small mammals and even insects, a role similar to modern seremas. Mid-sized species such as Andalgalornis had a perfect blend of agility and power. Its skull, reinforced vertically but weak laterally as previously mentioned, show it specialised in rapid downward strikes. Each blow acted like a hammer, stunning prey before the bird tore it apart with swift slicing motions. The giants like Kelenkin and Titanus lived in open environments where ambush and speed ruled. With their long legs and forward-leaning posture, they could accelerate fast, much like a cheetah, short bursts rather than long chases. Their likely targets were the medium-sized herbivorous mammals of their time, early horses, camelids and the young giant ground sloths. We even have chemical evidence hinting at diet. Isotopic analysis from fossilised bone from related species shows protein-rich, meat-based diet, confirming that these birds were true carnivores. As for cooperative hunting, that remains purely speculation. There's no fossil evidence of group behaviour, but comparisons to living caracaras and seriemas suggest some Phorusrhacids may have been opportunistic, scavenging when the chance arose. Whatever the species, their strategy was clear: locate, strike and finish quickly. They weren't brute force killers like mammalian predators, they were precision hunters, fast, efficient and, for over 60 million years, virtually uncontested. For tens of millions of years, South America was a world apart, a vast island continent adrift in the southern hemisphere. Its ecosystems evolved in isolation, producing a menagerie found nowhere else: giant ground sloths, armoured glyptodons and the terror birds that ruled as their predators. But around 3 million years ago, the continents collided. Tectonic uplift closed the gap between them, raising a narrow strait of land that would change global life forever: the Isthmus of Panama. This new land bridge connected North and South America for the first time in over 100 million years. Across it poured a flood of life in both directions, an event scientists call the Great American Biotic Interchange. Northward came the southern herbivores, glyptodonts, giant sloths and early armadillos. Southward came the hunters, saber-toothed cats, wolves and short-faced bears. For South America's native predators, it was the arrival of an entirely new playbook: fast social killers with advanced sensory systems and high endurance. One terror bird, Titanus walleri, even pushed north into what's now Florida and Texas, as previously mentioned. It stood nearly 2.5 meters tall and thrived briefly as North America's top predator, but the balance had shifted. Mammalian carnivores hunted cooperatively, reproduced faster, and adapted more easily to climate changes. In the face of this new competition, the Phorusrhacidae began to disappear. Within a geological instant, just a million years or so, a dynasty that had lasted 60 million years was gone. The throne they'd inherited from their dinosaur ancestors had finally passed to the mammals. Though the terror birds are gone, their legacy still walks the earth. Their closest relatives I've already mentioned a couple of times in this video, the Ceraimus of South America, small but fierce birds that hunt lizards and rodents, killing them by hammering them against the ground, just as their giant ancestors once might have done. Genetic and anatomical studies place both groups within the same order, Cariamiformes, proving that terror birds weren't distant cousins of modern birds. They were modern birds, just on a much grander scale. And in cassowaries and ostriches we see echoes of that same design. Long, muscular legs, compact wings, and the balance of speed and power that once defined the Phorusrhacidae. Flightless birds across the world have independently evolved similar traits, a reminder of how evolution repeats the best ideas when the conditions are just right. The terror birds remind us that the line between bird and dinosaur was never really a boundary. It's a continuous story. From the raptors that ruled the Cretaceous to the birds that rule the sky today, they were true avian dinosaurs, survivors of an extinction, inheritors of a lost world, and the rulers of their own age for nearly 60 million years. For tens of millions of years, the planet's most fearsome land predators didn't roar or snarl, but screamed or squawked. The terror birds were proof that evolution doesn't stop with extinction. It adapts, rebuilds, and passes the crown to whoever can claim it next. When one age ends, another always begins. Unfortunately for the terror birds, however, they evolved during the Cenozoic, the age of mammals. Thanks for watching this episode of Prehistoric Fact Files. If you enjoyed this episode, please give it a like and subscribe for more deep dives into the prehistoric world every week. And tell me in the comments which survivor of the apocalypse or creature do you want us to cover next. But until then, stay curious.